You know, I'm proud of myself when it's time to make a video. Listen, if you're not proud of yourself and you got issues, I got to stretch out. So I got to change the subject and I want to keep talking. How's that? Okay. I went and worked out with earrings on, gold. What the hell? It's a state of mind. It's not a lot of prep. It's right here, a state of mind. Those are bad thoughts, good thoughts. Get off your ass and go work out. Asses in the Bible. So, I look at my life, I look at the mistakes I've made, and I realize that our brain, our mind, controls so much. Let me stretch out. I just got home for my walk, and I get to talk about a walk, don't I? Let me cut my fan on here. I got air here, but isn't it nice to get a fan just like this? And it blows really good. I got that at the thrift store for $10. Look at it. So that was a choice. What choice are we going to make today? What are we going to do? Are we going to sit around? Are we going to work out? Are we going to entertain all these negative thoughts we get? Or are we actually going to say, hey, who cares I got earrings on? Who cares I got jewelry on? A tad of makeup. And I just jumped up and went. Well, that would probably be me today. And it's usually all the time. I got this bike here. But when I ride this wonderful bike, what am I doing? I'm sitting down. You sit on a bike and you know what? You got to get out and walk and move. So I got out and walked and moved. And I feel better. And I have to have an MRI tomorrow, folks. So if you like me or care about me, pray for me. I'm not completely claustrophobic, but you need a state of mind to get in there as well, correct? So, let me do a little stretching out here. That's 1, 2, I gotta stretch it out. 3, she's there. Just kind of bring them side to side here. You can't just get on here and forget about the stretch. Okay. I never, when I was young, thought working out or exercising was that important. So, I really wasn't fat, wasn't skinny. I just know that it's for the heart. Okay. We have to do things for the heart as well. Okay. If you don't get out and do things and move, it just goes under a column of kaputst. I'm kaputst. I can't walk. I'm just, not into it. But there is something about moving that's motivating, So, now that I've sweated all over my earrings, I guess I'll take them off. It's like having dessert before dinner. But everybody's going to do what they want to do anyway, right? The problem is when we are too involved with what other people are doing or thinking. The good Lord gave you a mind, make your own decisions. Okay? Sometimes we're influenced too easily. If I'm influenced, I'm doing a shout out right now about a lot of different things. Just hold on to the reins. We're going to gallop through some deserts. We're going to go up to a high peak. We might go back down into a valley. We might stop for a minute under a big shade tree and really drink a big, big drink of water. And I'm going to be the horse right now. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But you can make me drink. And you know what water I'm drinking, right? I want truth. I want wisdom. I don't want to not be able to one day say, I wish I would have said that. Or I regret not doing this. You don't have to travel the whole world or be in a different place to have a thought. And that's the beautiful thing about it, A state of mind. What is your state of mind? What are you going to do? It's your choice. Do you have nice people in your life that will listen to you and hear you out? I got to be honest with you today. Can I just be honest with you? There's a few people in your life that'll just actually listen to you. And you know why they'll listen to you? Because they care. I give my daughter a trophy on this one. Lately she's just really listened to me. And I know she picks the good apples out of the bag and throws the bad apples to the wind. My son Ryan listens to me. My son Christopher, he's not doing so good. And he hasn't done good in a long time. But we still can care about him, but we don't need to continue to hold a guard up. It's his life. You know, if my oldest son wants to make choices and act like, you know, the manipulator that he is, everybody's gone way above. So if you have someone in your family, I'm doing a shout out about you, Christopher. Mom prays that you'll, you know, turn your life around in many ways. I'm not going to expose you completely on here, but I'm going to let other parents and mothers know that we didn't raise our children that way. But when they have choices and they do things that are against what you know in your heart you've taught, and you got kindergarten pictures and you got everything to prove different, because you know damn well that you did not do that or be a part of it, then we release ourselves from the guilt, the shame, the hurt. And then we can have a normal, stabilized, you know, lifestyle. It takes work because our emotions and our state of mind play big. Okay? So pay attention to your emotions. They're very important. It's always wonderful to write a song when you're emotional, or to pray, or I don't know, you're doing yoga, swimming, whatever you're doing, taking a walk. Let your emotions play. Good emotions. If you see a sunset, or one time I was fortunate enough to see a mother owl and two baby twin owls. I didn't move. They were very close. I looked up in the tree and it was just like National Graphic moment, you know. And some tears fell. But you know, it's what touches your heart. If it's an owl, if it's a sunset, if it's a falling star, make sure you pay attention to those things and share them. There's nothing worse than talking to people that don't have a story that you can relate with. Or say, for example, that you can benefit from. So back to what I got on here for was to tell you, you can start out tired, start out slow, but just do some breathing. Realize that, you know, not everybody, again, you've heard this before, I'm sure you have. Not everybody's going to love you in this lifetime. Focus on the ones that do. And it seems like you must be educated. Sometimes we do hurt the ones we love. You know why? We get comfortable. We think, you know, it's okay. They're going to forgive me. They're going to love me. They're going to tolerate it. But at some point, you got to shake yourself up and say, look, you know, they know I'm taking maybe some negative feelings out, or fear, or acceptance. You can be addicted to being accepted. You know, there's an addiction to it, you know, being accepted. And then you're lacking something that you've got to fix. You know, it's up to you. You know, and if you're not making good choices and you're around a bunch of negative people that can't see the good in you, well, whose fault is that? Everybody wants to take the cheap way out, you know, hey, move on. Well, maybe there's a little bit more to moving on. Maybe you can splash a little bit of kindness and say, well, I'm sure that, you know, there's a reason for things. Maybe you're taking the same test over and over again. It's your turn on earth. I don't know. All I know is I got up and I worked out today, came home, and I thought I'd make a video. And while I'm sitting here, after I walked and stretching out, I want to let somebody know I used to smoke cigarettes. It was just awful. I'm laying down kind of doing some stretches here that you don't need to see and probably don't want to see, but just with my legs and things. But it's wonderful to look back at who you were and what you've become. And you know, these things really can help you. You don't have to live in the past, but what you can do is see where you've come from, what you are now, how things change. You know, you can drive around the city actually, and it's like, okay, now wait a minute, that was there. And you wonder, wow, did I get old? Yeah, you did. You grew up and got older and sometimes not wise. But back to the days when I smoked cigarettes. You guys want to know how addicted I was? Let me tell you something. I was so addicted to cigarettes that I'd walk in the store and I'd say, give me a pack of Marlboro Lights. Well, if the Marlboro Lights, they used to come in a box. And in that box, they were shorter. So I got the soft pack because they were longer and I just liked them. So I'd get the pack of cigarettes and she'd hand them to her, me or he, who was ever there, for this filthy, disgusting, addictive, chemicaled out cigarette. And I'd get the pack, and you know what I'd do? This is sad. I'm sharing this. There's some wisdom in it, but there's also some, how pathetic. But if you're going to do it right. They hand me the pack of cigarettes, and I'd take them and put them to my ear and squish them, right? Well, you want to squish a pack of cigarettes for the simple reason why. You know why. If the tobacco's fresh, it doesn't go. But if the tobacco's old, you hold the cigarette to your ear. This is something Miss Cool did. You go like this. I didn't hear nothing. These are fresh cigarettes. If they're stale, they go. So then you just say, hey, I need about 4 cigarette packs back on that shelf. You're trying to get rid of those? Because I'm not smoking them. Well, she gives you the fresh pack. This is the addiction. Okay? Now, we can talk about a lot of addictions. We can talk about food, gluttony, you're full, don't know when to stop, you haven't drank enough water. A lot of things are addictive. I paint probably way too much. I need to get rid of some of the art and put up the good art or figure something out. Anyway, I'm not hurting anybody doing it. And you guess you can continue to say that, I never got in an accident eating sugar, but if I drank some whiskey, I'd probably, have a possibility of doing a head-on collision and someone getting, pretty hurt, or, the rest of the words that go with drunk driving. Like I said, you don't want to be in a room with drunk mothers. You don't want to enter that room, do you? Because they get to yell and scream if they want. And you're not going to go in there and say, move on, or they're going to have their grief. They're going to have their Kleenex boxes, but there's a lot of things going on in the world today. What's big for me is just being able to accept where you are in life and being able to share something good. And back to the cigarettes, the addiction after working, being a waitress, and just hustling, man. There's a lot of people say it's really hard to work with other people's money, being a bank teller, and the responsibility of all that. Or everybody's got a story about what they've done to earn money, whether it's negative, positive. There's just so many ways to interpret money. It can serve you or it can become a master. Those aren't my words. That's from the Bible. See, because Miss Cool is really not as smart as I pretend sometimes. I've had a little help from the good Lord. If I apply it, what I've learned. Because, a lot of people are like, they're the most negative people you meet. And they're like repeating to you, trying to school you what God says, or a Bible, or a book, or maybe how to prepare something, And basically, they would learn a lot if they just let me show them my way and then you agree. Because everybody's going to disagree. But how about if we find something we can agree about? Then when you're in that state of mind, you can actually learn. Because you're not going to learn something if you're all the time mad that you think that they're showing you something because they want to be better. Because that's not nice. So, because the person that's usually trying to show you something and wanting to maybe make you feel like you're smaller than them or you didn't learn something, they don't want to come to the river, so to say, and realize if they just hush up and they were quiet and they got out of their ego, that they could actually open themselves up to somebody that you would have never thought in your whole life could have taught you something. It could be a story of courage. It could be something they overcame. And it could actually be teeny, 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 tiny, tiny little sands of change. It's up to us to notice it, and that's the state of mind. But back to this addiction on cigarettes. I keep going back to it. Okay, so this addiction was horrible. Think about it. You're smoking a cigarette. I got a feather here on my bed I found. This one's a nice big one. You're smoking on cigarettes. Okay. Oh, and by the way, a lot of people think feathers are very filthy and dirty. Okay. Miss Cool likes them. I can wash them in water. They fluff back up. I can put them in my hair. You know, natives aren't the only one that wear feathers. Miss Cool wears feathers. They put feathers on hats. Why not just put it in your hair? Well, Psalms 91, I'm skipping around here a little bit. We're going to go back to cigarettes because I'm a little bit on a higher plane, but I can come down and turn the flame down and talk to you. Because I think feathers are really beautiful, because Psalms 91 says that he will cover you with his feathers. Does that mean that you could fly? Does that mean that you could mysteriously find them every time you go on a walk? Every time I go on a walk, I'm not looking down the whole time. But when I do look down, what's there? A feather. These feathers are in my life for a reason. Of course, I've looked them up. Maybe you can. But back to these cigarettes. One time when I was quitting smoking, I thought, I'm calling up the number on the pack. How hilarious is that? How hypocritical is that? Okay, so I dialed it from the Surgeon General. And they said, if you want to quit smoking, we'll send you some patches. I'm up for that. Let's do it. But she ran me through some questions. So, Pamela, when do you smoke? Well, I answered her with, I smoke a cigarette usually when I'm angry. But there's time I like to have a cigarette after I make love. There's times I want to have a cigarette when I'm thinking things through. But mostly I smoke when I've got anxiety or I'm upset. I've worked my ASS off all day and I need a cigarette and maybe a Miller High Life. Fortunately, I didn't get addicted to the alcohol, but I did get addicted to the cigarettes. Why? We're holding them, sucking them. You know, there is 20 cigarettes per pack. Could that be 20 bottles? Baby bottles? Am I soothing myself? Okay, you might be soothing yourself, but after a minute, guess what happens? It's an addiction. You know? It's an addiction. So your body becomes addicted. You don't want to do it, but your body's saying, yeah, you do. So here comes the real battles. It's just one battle after the next. We can't drink bottled water. It's in plastic. You want to drink out of glass. What kind of water? It just goes on and on and on. Well, you don't want to, get too involved with all this olive oil or any nut oils. How about butter? Butter's good for your brain. Eat some eggs. Forget about the cholesterol. So that should tell you yourself right there that the doctors and the people, I follow doctors that are teaching me things, Dr. Reese, but they're people that they're still learning too. But we always want to say to them, okay, you changed. You never knew. No, they're learning too. Just like a weatherman. Maybe it's going to storm. Maybe it's not. The hurricane's going to come, So we just got to bend, basically, and be able to say, okay, I was wrong. You were wrong. So what's new? What's happening now? And then just kind of brush off the table. You can't dust the table, until the dust settles. What's that mean? So these one-liners that I've heard all my life, you can apply. They're going to come up in your state of mind. Use them. Have a wonderful day. Do not ever get addicted to cigarettes. Because, I see people riding bikes smoking. I think the most annoying thing for Miss Cool is when I'm driving down the street and I see someone walking down the road reading a book. Now, how does that affect you? Do you think, are they going to hit that curb? Are they going to bust a tooth? Are they going to turn the page? Yeah, they are. They're reading. They're multitasking. They're probably a few steps from a test. I don't know. All I know is I notice things. And when I notice things, I like to ponder them, see how I feel, and at the end of the day think, was it a good day? Did you hold your feelings in when you could have said something? Did you try to understand somebody that was struggling? Did you look at life different than being in a hurry? Because those regrets, you'll wear them. Don't wear any regrets today. And if you make mistakes, we all do. Well, here's another saying my Jewish grandfather said. That's why there's erasers on pencils. So do what you got to do. Take care of yourself. And spend time alone. People that always need to be around somebody or a drink in their hand or a cigarette, you might want to think about it. Because guess what? You're all right the way you're made. You're good. You're good. A lot of people can smoke some herb and they're all good. I don't like marijuana. I don't like alcohol. I like fresh cold water. And maybe for some of us, it's okay to say that without offending you. It's Miss Cool saying, hey, find your tribe. And you know what? The tribe can change. There was a time when I wanted to hear Jimi Hendrix. I'd smoke a joint when I was young, but it all changed. Why? Because I got to know me. And it just didn't sit well with me anymore. And you know what? They say there's nothing better than a natural high. Try it.